took place between University of Houston students, professors, and union leaders yesterday to protest the immigration crackdowns. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman. We'll also talk with University of Houston political science professor and host of HPM's Party Politics, Brandon Rottinghaus, who discusses everything that passed in the Texas legislature.
I'm Frank Billingsley. Plus, we'll hear from the co-founders of Houston Running Company, Graham and Randi Schooley, who both explain how the event has grown to host over 30 events annually.
And as always, we want to hear your thoughts. So give us a call, 713-440-8870, or email us at talk@hellohouston.org.
All that and more here on Hello Houston, following the news from NPR and News 88.7.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Every year, the State Department releases human rights reports on every country around the world. NPR's Graham Smith tells us that this year, there are major changes coming in these reports.
Internal State Department documents reviewed by NPR show the Trump administration is dropping multiple categories of human rights abuses from its annual country reports. No longer will the U.S. call out governments for violations against the freedom to privacy, the right to free and fair elections, or the right to peacefully assemble. More than 20 kinds of violations are being stripped out, according to these documents, to comply with recently issued executive orders from the White House. Among them, violence against minorities and disabled people, and serious government corruption. Human rights defenders tell NPR they're concerned the U.S. is abandoning its post as a supporter of personal freedoms, and that this will send the wrong message to authoritarian governments. Graham Smith, NPR News.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the U.S. may be ready to move on from efforts for a Russian-Ukraine peace deal if there's no progress in the coming days.
We're not going to continue to fly all over the world and do meeting after meeting after meeting if no progress is being made. So if they're serious about peace, either side or both, we want to help. If it's not going to happen, then we're just going to move on.
Rubio made the comment to reporters in Paris after a marathon day of landmark talks among U.S., Ukrainian, and European officials over the war in Ukraine that's been going on for more than 3 years now after Russia invaded Ukraine. Russia continues to bombard Ukraine, and Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov says ending the war isn't a simple task. It's not clear if the Trump administration would abandon its effort to reach a 30-day ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine or abandon Washington's commitments to Ukraine. Mike Huckabee took office as the U.S. ambassador to Israel today, and as NPR's Hadil Al-Shalchi reports, he came with instructions from President Trump.
Mike Huckabee's first order of business as U.S. ambassador to Israel was to pray at the Western Wall in Jerusalem. Huckabee said that before he left the U.S., President Trump gave him a prayer he wrote on a piece of paper.
With the instruction that my first act as the ambassador would be to take his prayer, praying for the peace of Jerusalem, and to bring it to the wall.
Huckabee held up the prayer, which read, quote, "For peace in Israel, Donald Trump," before pushing it into a crack in the wall. Huckabee has backed calls for Israel to annex the West Bank, calling it by its biblical name, Judea and Samaria. He has also rejected the idea of a two-state solution between Israel and Palestinians. Hadil Al-Shalchi, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
And Wall Street is closed today in observance of Good Friday. You're listening to NPR News from Washington.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Gabrielle Dawkins. Measles is still spreading in Texas. As Houston Public Media's Colleen de Guzman reports, the state's health agency is reporting 36 more cases of the disease since its last update.
That brings the total number of measles cases related to the Texas outbreak to 597. It's estimated that 30 of the cases are actively infectious, according to the Texas Department of Health and Human Services. 62 patients have been hospitalized, and the death toll remains at 2.
Students in faculty held a rally Thursday afternoon on the UH main campus to protest the revocation of a professor's visa. News 88.7's Tom Perumian reports.
More than 100 students and several faculty members gathered in the plaza in front of MD Anderson Library. Rally organizer Professor David McNally says international students are being targeted by the Trump administration.
There are over a dozen students whose visas have been revoked. We really do want to speak out to that issue and the way in which the federal government is trying to create a climate of fear on our campuses.
Speakers ranged from faculty to students, with civil rights activists and organized labor showing their support. The rally coincided with a nationwide call to action by the American Association of University Professors to stop the federal government from interfering in higher education. I'm Tom Perumian, News 88.7.
And travelers taking certain United flights from the George Bush Intercontinental Airport will now pass through a terminal named after the late Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Houston City Council voted unanimously Wednesday to rename Terminal E after Jackson Lee, who represented parts of Houston in the U.S. House of Representatives for nearly 3 decades. Her daughter, Erica Carter Lee, spoke to City Council before the vote.
We are not just affixing a name to a building. We are telling the world that Sheila Jackson Lee mattered to Houston and that her legacy lives on boldly, visibly, and permanently.
And it's currently 79 degrees with a high near 88 degrees on this beautiful Friday. I'm Gabrielle Dawkins, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. As a fiduciary, Fisher Investments is obligated to act in their client's best interest. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss. This is NPR.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
It's Friday.
It's Friday. Happy Friday.
We made it.
Hello.
It to Friday.
Hello, Friday.
We say that every day. We're like, it's Monday. We made it to Thursday. Happy hump day.
I'll tell you, Tuesday, right after the show, someone said to me, it's Tuesday. And I was like, it's only Tuesday? So it was an accomplishment for me to make it to Friday this week. I'm very proud of it all. You know what? If you want to see us so thrilled that we made it to Friday, it's easy to do. You can visit us online. We are on YouTube. Easiest way to find us, just go to our website, hellohouston.org, and click that orange banner, and we'll be there. Or if you're on YouTube, just look for Houston Public Media. Also, our phone line's always open, 713-440-8870. We love to hear from you. So give us your thoughts, your questions, your ideas as we go through the topics of the day. All right, I think that's everything I need to tell them.
Yeah, I'm watching us right now, along with 11 other people.
Oh, well, hi, all 11 of you.
Hi.
Something else you're watching, and you always are, is the
weather.
14.
Right?
Easter weekend. People
14.
need to know, Frank.
I was looking at some of what we call the microcast models, the really ones that really dive in a bit. And it's not looking like a complete washout on Sunday. So warm and cloudy tonight and tomorrow, and a little breezy. Then on Sunday, a 70% chance officially of rain. But it looks to me like it's not going to rain all day, and it'll be more showery type. So you might have to plan for the possibility of an umbrella, but it shouldn't ruin the day. But it's not going to be a beautiful spring day like we wish.
See, that's tough when you're hiding Easter eggs.
We
because
hid
the
them
grass is wet, and it just.
Yeah, it's
my mother hid them in around the house one time when it rained, and we didn't find all of them. But they found us about 3 months later when they smelled like sulfur.
Oh, they were real, not the plastic.
We did the real deal. We always did the real deal.
When you say, and we've probably talked about this before, but 70% chance of rain.
Yeah.
What does that actually mean?
It's for the area you're forecasting for has a 7 in 10 chance of rain. It's not.
When?
What it's not is easier to explain. It's not 70% of the people. It's not 70% of the day. It's a 70% chance for this particular area, which why it could be 50% at the coast, whatever time period you're forecasting for.
Okay.
So it could be 30% in the morning for Houston, 30% in the morning for Galveston, then it goes to 40% in the afternoon for Galveston, 50% for Houston. And then you can break that down if you want.
Not 50%
North Houston, South Houston.
Not 50% of the time is it raining. 70%
Correct.
of the time.
That's not what it means.
Okay. Just wanted to
I
clarify.
know the it's called POPs for short, probability of precipitation, and
thanks, Pops.
But you know what? I did an experiment when I was at 2, and I tried to leave out percentages and just say good chance, better chance, probable rain, likely, those kind of words. And I thought I was going to be run over
You
by
upset
somebody.
people.
They
Yes.
like their percentages, even if they don't understand them.
If they don't know what it
They
means.
want them.
I like percentages. I like to know, okay, 30%, okay, 70%.
What you want is what's the more likely time of. I get it. I get it.
Absolutely. So
I have 100% chance of us having a good show today.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's do it. Take it away, Artie.
So 100% chance Brandon Rottinghaus will be with us, Houston Public Media's party politics guy. He's here to talk about what's going on in the legislature. That's going to be coming up this hour. But as always, Celeste leads us off with the topics of the day.
Right. So yesterday, university students and professors held protests on campuses all across the United States against on what they say are broad attacks on higher education coming down from the Trump administration. Right here on the University of Houston campus, students like professors and union leaders also participated in the demonstrations in front of the MD Anderson Library. That's also right here on campus. And they were protesting specifically against immigration crackdowns and university funding threats. Unfortunately, the protest does come days after a University of Houston assistant professor said he's preparing to return to South Korea after telling students over the weekend that his visa was unexpectedly terminated. We want to hear from you. Are you for or against Trump's actions on universities? And do you think these nationwide protests make a difference? Give us a call, 713-440-8870.
I would say I think in any other administration, protests would matter. I don't know. I had trouble saying that word. In this administration, I don't know that it does.
Well, I think all protests matter because they matter. I just think that it's important to let your voice be heard.
Oh, absolutely. I think you should let your voice
to
be
your
heard.
point.
But
To your point, nobody's who's hearing
it.
them is your point.
Yeah, in this administration.
Well, the more protests, the louder the voice. The louder the voice, the more people have to listen. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's the answer.
See, I think that maybe it's not going to have an effect directly to the administration. However, I do think it has an effect where it brings awareness to situations that are happening that will send out almost a ripple effect or maybe a change in sentiment. So when people go to vote, they understand why. And I think that is the message is that people are trying to make, whether it's on university campuses, whether it's at federal agencies, people going to different buildings to protest. People are basically saying, hear us loud and clear because you're upsetting us. And we hope enough people can have eyes on us so when we go to vote, we make better informed voting decisions.
That's a very good point. And I would add that if you're Harvard and you have $50 billion, you don't have to have a protest. You just say, no, we're not doing that.
Right.
If you're a smaller school and you don't have that kind of backdoor funding, then what do you about the only thing you can do is protest, and go to the library and say this is not going to happen here, and resist as best you can because we don't all have the money to say, well, you know what, we're just not going to do that. If you don't want to fund us, don't fund us. We still need funding at a lot of universities.
The important part, and also following up what you were saying, Celeste, is that the unease in the electorate is felt by the elected officials, especially those that want to be reelected.
Correct.
And what you hope is that there's enough movement saying we are unhappy with the way things are going, that our elected officials will hear that and react to that, even at the very top if they're not listening. But it's a weird time we're in where, yes, they're worried about, but then they're also worried if they don't carry water for the administration, they could be primaried. It's happening on the state level and on the national level.
Yeah. And if you want to comment on this, we want to hear from you, 713-440-8870. Ernie, your next story is kind of right on the heels of what we're talking about.
Brings us right down to the state level. Texas senators voted 20-11 on Wednesday to approve a bill that would drastically limit how the state's public universities teach their students about history, race, and inequality. Senate Bill 37 passed despite Democrats raising concerns it could lead to faculty brain drain, I like that, self-censorship, or lawsuits against the state. Democrats also criticized the bill's author, Republican Senator Brandon Creighton of Conroe, for not giving them enough time to review. This always bugs me, to review the 13-page amendment he filed shortly before the Tuesday vote was taken. They eventually agreed to give them 10 minutes to read it. The amendment added that universities would be required to either end or revise degree programs if the state determines the programs do not offer a return on investment for students. That
what
whole
in the
wording
world?
Bothers me there. Yeah. Anyway, what are your thoughts on it? There's more here, but let's get into it. It's Senate Bill 37. Good or bad for universities? Give us a call, 713-440-8870.
On the face of it, it's horrible.
If the state determines programs do not offer a return on investment for students.
And they want to teach their students about history. They want history, race, and inequality to be determined by the state.
Yes,
what the
a
state
panel
should be taught.
that they would have that would come together. This committee would be formed by 3 appointees of the governor's office, 2 from lieutenant governor, and 2 from the Speaker of the House of Representatives.
I think that one of the big issues here is that when you start giving so much power to states and the government to essentially decide and what is good or what is bad or what is eligible or not eligible, you have different administrations coming in every single time. And it just sounds extremely disruptive, ineffective, inefficient for the people that are actually doing it every single day. I mean, they're breaking down structures. There are some things that just need to be left alone.
Well, the whole concept of it should show a return on investment, basically. You know, if this costs money, you got to be able to show you're going to produce something that's of value. What bothers me is probably the thing I took most from my university years was how I learned to think. Yeah. Not a quantifiable skill, obviously, if you listen to this show. But it was like processes and things like that. So classes that didn't traditionally look like they were leading me to a direct job taught me life, taught me how to explore, how to look at things, why I question people the way I do, because I went to a Jesuit university that was very steeped in more the philosophy of understanding than actually the fact of understanding. It was why we conceive these things. That's not quantifiable.
Yeah.
Right.
That bothers me. A lot of those classes could be pulled or not funded because they don't lead you directly to a job doing A, B, or C.
I double majored in college, and my one major was mass communications. The other was philosophy.
Yeah.
And I thought I might go to law school, and then I wanted to be able to think and look at all sides of a situation, which is what philosophy is all about, trying to discover the truth by looking at all aspects.
And I want to clarify, I said the word inefficient. It's inefficient.
I wasn't going to correct you.
I just want to put this out there right now. I speak 2 languages, Spanish and English, and sometimes my words just
Okay, you want to blame that? That's fine. I'll go with that.
Yeah, I speak one language and I still screw up my words. So
podemos hacerlo en español, pero
no problema.
Otro programa.
If you have a thought on education besides the one your panel of hosts have had here, but about what we're talking about, give us a call, 713-440-8870 on any of these topics, Frank.
We actually have a call from Jim in West Houston. And Jim, what's on your mind right now?
Well, I've been listening to Gus. I think this is really serious, arguing about whether there should be protests or how effective it should be. But something has to be done. The majority of the people elected this guy president, and he's a criminal. They knew it, but they don't care, and they elected him anyway. I'm talking about the majority of the voters.
Right. I was just going to stop you there and say it's the majority of the voters. It wasn't the majority of the people. There was a recent poll that came out that showed how many people in each presidential election have not voted. And it's usually around 35% of eligible voters don't vote in elections. What a difference that would make if everyone stepped up and had their voice heard.
Well, I finished my comment with a majority of the voters. But however, protests are important. And we've got to protest, and that's all we have. Mm-hmm. A revolution's out the question. They're in control. They control the military. They control your local police. The majority of police unions supported Trump. A criminal. Can you imagine? My God, what's going on here?
Well, your voice will and can be heard, Jim, and I completely agree with your comments.
Jim, thank you very much for calling. And the president was found guilty in a number of cases, which could lead Jim to call him a criminal. Celeste.
That's right. Coming up on Hello Houston, we talked to the host of Houston Public Media's Party Politics, Brandon Rottinghaus, about all the action in the Texas legislature. And we are also taking your calls on any of today's topics at 713-440-8870. This is Hello Houston on News 88.7. Every conversation continues here because of you, whether we're talking about local governments, school vouchers, organ donation. You make it happen, and that matter, and the things that matter to you, because public media is at risk right now, not just from one place, but from all over. Cuts at the national level and economic pressure are making it harder to sustain independent journalism. But Houston Public Media is different. We're funded mostly by you. That's why this moment matters. Now is the time to stand for local programming, and right now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887. I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman here with Frank Billingsley.
Thank you, Celeste. It's just like the conversation we just had with Jim,
yes.
Talking about protests. Those are made possible because people like you invest in it. And so your gift right now protects your access to these kind of stories, helping you better understand our city. So make your gift right now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
We love bringing you conversations that are relevant, that are real, and rooted in this city. And that's what Hello Houston does. And that's what makes it different. And you can hear it. If you've ever thought, I'm glad I heard that, this is your moment to give back right now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or pick up that phone. Call us 888-909-0887.
And setting up a monthly gift is the best way to support this station. It just recurs every month, and that support helps us plan and stay strong so we can plan ahead. We can be there no matter what the future holds. And these days, who knows what that's going to be. So please go to houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Every day we slow down and listen, whether we're spotlighting a local official or an issue that is impacting Houstonians' life, or maybe even from someone who's making a difference. Hello Houston is here to connect you to your community. Your support makes it possible. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
I came from commercial television. Public media works differently. It's powered by people, not by ads. And right now, someone just like you is stepping up to keep local conversations going. So join us. Give right now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
And listen, here's the reality. It's no secret. Public media funding is never guaranteed. And that is why we rely on you. Community support is the most reliable thing that we have. Help protect your newsroom at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate. Or again, pick up that phone and give us a call, 888-909-0887.
So if you've already made a gift, thank you. If you're able to make a bigger gift, we would love it if you could consider giving just a little more. You're going to help local reporters, emergency coverage, emergency weather coverage, and the conversation you hear right now on Hello Houston. Make your extra gift now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or give us a call, 888-909-0887. Thank you so much.
You count on Houston Public Media because you understand how important a free press is to a healthy society.
We're not chasing ratings. We're not owned by a corporation. We're here to inform you with facts, context, and clarity.
When you give today, you're helping protect journalism that serves you, not a political agenda or a bottom line.
Support this public service now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Houston Public Media brings to you PBS World, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on TV 8.6. Experience the personal connection behind the headlines with programming devoted to telling stories that humanize complex issues. PBS World helps us understand the movements, conflicts, and cultures that connect us all. PBS World on TV 8.6 and online at houstonpublicmedia.org. Support for Houston Public Media comes from UNT, offering an online MBA with specializations in organizational behavior, HR management, and more. Classes start every 8 weeks. Details at online.unt.edu/MBA.
Support comes from the Houston Zoo, presenting its annual Feast with the Beasts. Cuisine from a number of Houston's diverse eateries, animal experiences, live music, and more. May 2nd. More at houstonzoo.org.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from the Near Northwest Management District, with a developer-friendly environment and Houston's 6th largest business center. More information at nnmd.org, at the intersection of innovation.
Support comes from attorney mediator Ron Bankston, providing in-person, video conference, and hybrid mediation and arbitration services. More information is available at ronbankston.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Hello, Houston. We're
Hello.
back again.
We are back.
We're back Friday.
You thought you were rid of us after the first couple minutes.
We got the nicest comment on YouTube, and I want to read it.
Please.
And this is from Alex Garza. Happy Friday, friends. Just wanted to send out a huge shout out to the host and the behind the scenes crew. This show is wonderful. May grace and peace be with you, to you and everyone listening today.
Thank you for that. That was really
Happy
nice.
Good Friday.
You know, if you're watching us on YouTube, there's always a lot going on in that chat there. Celeste follows it more than we do because we're doing the show. But you can also remember to give us a call at 713-440-0887. I don't mean Celeste isn't also doing the show, but, she's the younger one. She's up there in all of the different platforms. You can also email us your questions at talk@hellohouston.org. We do have a call on the line referring back to an earlier segment. It is Pam from Sugarland. Pam, what's on your mind today?
Thoroughly enjoy your show. I've been listening just about every day.
Thank you, Pam. What's your question or comment today?
Well, I wanted to talk about the item that you hold on, let me turn this down.
Okay, Pam.
Okay. All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I want to talk about the return on investment for a committee that's going to be formed by the governor.
Over university
the
curriculum,
governor,
yes.
So what do you think?
The Speaker of the House. They're going to appoint people to this committee.
Mm-hmm.
Is anyone going to appoint a professor or someone with knowledge of education and curriculum?
I guess that, and, I don't know that they have stated that.
My daughter got a degree in philosophy.
Right.
And I remember her asking me, she said, Mom, if I don't get admitted to law school, what am I going to do with a degree in philosophy? I said, I guess you're going to go to graduate
There
school.
you go. Or become a radio host.
Pam, you bring up a good point, and I think this goes back to something that I'm always harping on here, too, is the fact that these are elected officials appointing more than likely people that fall in line with their belief system. So if they are not doing what you said, putting professors and those in the realm of education onto these boards, we have the power to vote in people who will. So we should always pay attention to what's happening in these kind of committees, and we should always make sure our voice is heard when we vote. I appreciate your calling, Pam, and thank you for the kind words.
Yep,
and
thanks,
if you have
Pam.
other thoughts, give us a call, 713-440-8870. I think that's the actual number. I think I've been giving it wrong all morning. Anyway.
No, we would have corrected you, Ernie.
Would you have?
Yes.
You would have? Okay.
Yeah.
You know, someone who never has to correct me because I'm always Johnny on the spot with it. It is Brandon Rottinghaus. A lot of news has been happening in the Texas legislature this week, from the passing of school voucher bills all the way down to bills centered around the state budget, property taxes, gender and sexuality, and more. Brandon is a political science professor at UH and also happens to be the co-host of Houston Public Media's Party Politics. Brandon, hello there.
Hey, Ernie, how are you?
We are doing well. Before we get into the thick of it all, we had a call right before the break in which our caller referred to the president as a criminal. I just want to verify where we come up with saying that, or people do say that. What is the fact behind it, and is that a true term when referring to Donald Trump?
It's true in the sense that he has convictions, and as a result, you could, I guess, theoretically call him a criminal. Some of the specifics about the punishment have obviously changed a bit. That wasn't exactly what DOJ intended, but at the end of the day, there are still a lot of people with the sentiment that even if he hasn't broken specific laws or gotten charged with the things that they think that he's done, he's definitely skirted the law in ways that make people uncomfortable. That definitely got litigated, not only in courts, but also in the court of public opinion. So there's certainly a lot of kind of unhappiness out there about not just this particular scandal, but lots. There are dozens of members of Congress who have got ethical violations.
Yeah, we just don't want to. We don't want to slander anyone.
Right. We just want to make sure that when a caller says something like that, that we're not slandering the president. That there is reason behind it.
Yeah.
No, that's right, and it is connected to, I think, what people have is a pretty serious concern that their elected officials aren't representing them. So this is not an uncommon thing, I'm sorry to say, but definitely it is the case that we've seen a lot of episodes of this in the last few years.
Okay, on to the things we actually have you here to talk about, Celeste.
Yes, and so speaking of concern, a lot of Texans have some concerns around the voucher bill that was passed by the Texas House earlier this week. So, Brandon, walk us through this. We know where we're at now. What happens next?
Yeah, so effectively, the House has made their final changes to the bill. The Senate, even just literally minutes ago, concurred. So they'll have a joint bill they can send to the governor. The bill has got lots of details in it, but the bottom line is that it plans to spend about $1 billion of funding to put towards these education savings accounts or vouchers. This is something the governor's been pushing for years. And so he's had this day circled on his calendar for a long time. He got a pretty big win here, but it wasn't without some caveats. I don't know that there are any serious objections from Republicans who basically back the bill, because there are lots of fail-safes in the bill that potentially make it reasonable and, at least as we saw, able to be supported by most Republicans. So, for instance, there are annual audits of the program as well as any of the individual vendors involved. There are state-aligned testing requirements that are built into this now because of some of these amendments. There are crackdown on what they call fly-by-night schools. So you can't just kind of open a school and hope to have students. You have to have accreditation for at least a couple of years. So the Republicans and Democrats basically banded together to try to make the bill a bit better. But really the die was cast. President Trump weighed in on this, pressuring Republicans to say yes. And ultimately, Greg Abbott, he kind of got them over the bump.
Hey, Brandon, does a private school have to accept voucher money? Or can they say, you know what, we want to remain independent of whatever the state's rules are, and so we're going to tell our students, sorry, our tuition is our tuition, we don't accept vouchers? Or
It's a
can they
great
not?
question, Frank. I think the answer is yes, they could. They don't have to take this money from the state. And there haven't been as many viewpoints from the side of the private schools who have determined exactly how many students they're going to take or kind of how they're going to facilitate the testing requirements that are now part of this bill. So we don't know all the details from the kind of, I guess, supply side of things. But for sure, it's the case that they could say no. And we know that they can say no to students. If they apply to the school, it doesn't mean that you're guaranteed admission. So that still is a kind of an issue that they're going to have to resolve.
Two little questions on this first one. So House bill and Senate bill are going to come together and be a single bill, just to clarify that, because it got very confusing even talking about them. One is funding, one is vouchers, but they're all going to be one bill.
That's right. And this is the way typically it works. At this point, because the Senate has concurred with the House's changes from the marathon meeting a couple days ago, they won't have to have a conference committee. They can just basically kind of organize it as it is and send it to the governor's desk, who I'm sure will be very happy.
Okay, I want to move on if that's okay.
Well, last
You have
one in there.
okay.
Yeah. When we talk about it, we've brought it up a couple times this week, but just for clarity on it. So is it a fund of money that parents get to use toward education, or is it a voucher that goes to the school system or school itself that uses it? How exactly is it being distributed out?
Yeah, the way it seems to work in the language of the bill is that it'll be something that the parents can essentially direct the controller who's in charge of this to send to the proper place. So the money really follows the student here. And if you have a student enrolled at a particular school and that's the tuition rebate that you intend to take, then there is some way that that gets signaled to the controller's office who will be responsible for this. So we don't know every detail yet. And obviously, too, some of the fight was about kind of how much money to put to the infrastructure around this. The fiscal note on the bill implies that it will basically require about an extra 400 or so people to administer. That could be something that obviously creates a bit more government. So we don't know every detail in answer to your question, Ernie, but it'll function something along those lines.
Okay, Frank, move on.
I want to turn to property taxes. What happened there, Brandon?
Well, they're still fighting through property taxes. The budgets for House and Senate have basically been framed. They still need to put the fixtures in, so they'll have some specific details that they'll work through. The House this week had a marathon budget debate. They indicated changes they wanted to see. They ended up with a bunch of amendments that increased or decreased various monies. But ultimately, at the end of the day, there's going to be a pretty substantial amount of money put to the property tax efforts in both chambers. In particular, the amount of money is about $51 billion in this biennial budget. And keep in mind that the House and Senate sort of bills that is the revenue that the state has, if you take out the federal money, which is about a third of the total budget, that's a big chunk of the total budget for the House and Senate. So this is a lot of money they're going to spend on property taxes.
Okay, so are my property taxes going to come down or not?
I think the short answer is it really depends.
Okay.
It depends on what the appraisal looks like.
All right, we'll move on.
Where you are. Yeah.
We want to
I'll say this. The Republicans want to say yes, that your property taxes will come down, and they probably will. I think for most people that's true. The issue here is how long they'll stay down for and whether or not, the appraisals will rise up to meet, and then whether or not the state has the money to continue to pay for these in the future. That's a real question. Yep. $51 billion is a lot of money, and if you have that in every biennial budget, it definitely takes a big chunk of the general revenue.
We're talking to political science professor at the University of Houston, Randi Rottinghaus. You can join the conversation with your questions and concerns at 713-440-8870.
I always love the political intrigue. That's where I get into politics here. So I'm wondering, from what we've seen in this session so far, has this been a lift for the governor, or has it been a detraction from the governor? Is he standing stronger at this point or weaker than when January was here?
Yeah, it's a great question. We've actually seen a real transition in Texas government to have strong governors. This was true from basically Governor Perry moving forward. There is this old saw in Texas politics that says that the lieutenant governor is the most powerful person in Texas government. I think we have to shut that down. I think now, actually, having seen the effectiveness by which the governor has been able to rally his own party and really reshape his own party, and then to cement the powers of the governorship through this pretty signature win, means that we can stop talking about the lieutenant governor as the most important and most impactful member of the plural executive. The governor definitely has a pretty big sway here. But the way that he got it was not the same that we've seen in the past. The way that Governor Perry would get these wins with through finesse, where Governor Abbott's getting it likely through force. He really has pressured his own party to be able to side with him. He's gone to the electorate, spending $6 million plus to reshape the party. So he definitely had to really press to get what he wanted. But this is the signature win he's been looking for a couple of years.
How tied is the governor's administration to the president's administration at this point? We heard even when it came to vouchers, there were phone calls back and forth. How closely connected are we?
Yeah, you make a great point. Donald Trump weighed into the Republican caucus just before the voucher vote, and I think really suggested that this wasn't necessarily the closer. I think Abbott had the votes, but he definitely implied, that is, the president implied, that this is a monitoring sort of situation, that MAGA is watching. And I think for a lot of Republicans, they're worried about their prospects electorally in what likely is going to be a pretty contentious primary. Remember, these things don't happen in a vacuum. The primary is going to consist of a top of the ticket, heavyweight battle between John Cornyn and Ken Paxton running for the U.S. Senate. So that's going to bring out all of the conservatives. And so if you're a member of the House thinking, how should I vote on vouchers? One big piece of that is how the very conservative electorate that's likely to come out and support is going to react to that. So in more direct answer to your question, the Trump administration definitely has become a kingmaker in Texas, and most Republicans are very aware of this.
Brandon, where are the bills on sexuality and on gender stand?
There are a lot of bills involving these sorts of social issues, and they're at various stages of completion. We are running short of time in the ledge. They've got basically about a month left to do real work, and depending on what kind of bill it is and where it came from, that is the Senate or if it's through committee, all these various rules are all kind of complicated. But the bottom line is that they have to hurry if they want to push some of these agendas through. Next week, we're going to hear some big issues on abortion. There's a potential for there to be a very controversial bill on abortion rights that would make Texas as effectively as sort of hard on abortion rights as.
So do you think that maybe should they maybe be meeting every year rather than every 2 years?
There has been consistent efforts to try to move Texas to a year-round legislature, and they've almost always failed. Yeah. If we do this, it has to go to the voters, and the voters have rejected it over the course of the last 70 years. So I don't know how people would react to it right now, but I think most people look at the 2-year legislature and say, we probably need to be meeting more often. Doing a 2-year budget is already a challenge, and so that's one issue that is the most impactful. But yeah, a megastate like Texas that's growing so fast with so many needs probably should have a legislature that meets more often.
Yeah, agreed.
Brandon Rottinghaus is the political science professor at the University of Houston and a co-host of Houston Public Media's Party Politics. Brandon, thanks so much for joining Frank, Ernie, and myself.
You're welcome. Happy Friday.
Come back early and often.
Coming up, we talk with the founders of Houston Running Company about the joys of running and Houston's running community. As Hello Houston continues, stay with us. If bills in the Texas legislature matter to you, help protect it, because public media across the country is facing threats to vital funding. That includes this station. Here at Houston Public Media, we're holding the line thanks to you. Your support helps shield local programming like this from economic uncertainty and, well, policy shifts. Protect the platform that uplifts Houston's voices right now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887. I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman here with Ernie Manous.
There are real threats to funding for public media, and that's what matters. Because when funding is threatened, it's people like you who keep trusted journalism alive. So we need to hear from you now. Please give at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Coming up later in the show, we'll be speaking to a preacher all about the rhythms of Easter and what today actually means. And this conversation is exactly why this show matters. It adds value, it adds perspective, and we want to hear from different perspectives and local insight you can't find anywhere else. If that's worth something to you, take a moment to give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Monthly giving is the best way to support Houston Public Media. It's steady and dependable. If you've been meaning to start, this is the moment. Join us right now. HoustonPublicMedia/donate or 888-909-0887.
Maybe you have the ability to make a bigger gift. Join our Studio Society by making a gift of $1,200 or maybe an even bigger gift. When you give $5,000, you will join Houston Public Media's Affinity Council. If you have the ability, make that donation right now. HoustonPublicMedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
You know, we love hearing from our members, and through this show, we hear from a lot of you out there. Here's just one comment that came through. Quote, Houston Public Media is my source for balanced, verified news and for interesting, educational, entertaining programming. Thank you so much for your comment. Now is the time for you. Make your gift and leave your comment at HoustonPublicMedia.org/donate or give us a call, 888-909-0887.
If you already give, thank you, truly. This is the time to do even more. Make an additional gift, increase your monthly support, or consider a leadership gift. $1,200 or more makes you part of our Studio Society. Don't miss the chance to do more at HoustonPublicMedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Everyone has a right to know what's happening. Whether it's local school decisions or community events, support local voices and thoughtful conversations right now at HoustonPublicMedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
And this is the great thing about public media. It's available to everyone and for everyone. But not everyone has the ability to make a gift right now, and that's okay. So I'm asking you if you can make a gift to the station our community relies on. Do that now. Give for you and give for your neighbors. Give right now at HoustonPublicMedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
And to everyone who's already given, thank you. Your gift is powering something bigger than any one story. But if you haven't, now is the time to make your gift. HoustonPublicMedia.org or call 888-909-0887.
Hi, I'm Craig Cohen, the host of Houston Matters. Join me weekday mornings at 9 or at your leisure on your podcast feed for your daily guide to the people, places, issues, and ideas that define Greater Houston. From politics to the economy, energy to the environment, healthcare to education to transportation and beyond. If it matters to Houston, it matters to us. Check us out wherever you get your podcasts or live on the air weekdays at 9 a.m. right here on News 88.7.
Houston Public Media is rooted in our community. We show up at school board meetings, city council votes, and neighborhood events.
That's how you stay informed about what's happening around you through deep local reporting that brings clarity and insight.
Your support powers this public service, so Greater Houston stays informed, connected, and safe.
Support local journalism right now at HoustonPublicMedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
We believe in your right to free information. Help protect trusted news that keeps us all informed by supporting Houston Public Media. Stand up for your right to information. Give today at HoustonPublicMedia.org or call 888-909-0887.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from the Holdsworth Center's Champions of Hope series, featuring 6 Texas education leaders who are uplifting their communities and leading with heart. More about their stories at holdsworthcenter.org.
Support comes from Houston Grand Opera, presenting Missy Mazzoli's contemporary opera, Breaking the Waves, making its Houston debut at the Wortham Center from April 19th through May 4th. Tickets are available at hgo.org.
Support comes from the Moore School of Music, presenting Puccini's opera Turandot, a fantasy of love in ancient China, featuring soprano Christine Gerke and tenor Limmy Pulliam, April 24th in the Moore's Opera House. Tickets at uh.edu/arts-tickets.
And now back to Hello Houston. Join the conversation. Call now, 713-440-8870, or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Welcome back
Hello,
to
Houston.
Hello Houston.
Hello, Friday.
It's Friday.
Okay, a couple things. A little house cleaning here. First of all, I hear my hair was a mess on camera. We're still getting used to being on cameras. You can watch us. Just go to hellohouston.org or on the YouTube channel, and you can see what's going on here. The second thing is, I have been giving the wrong phone number the whole day.
You have been.
Because we're also in pledge, which is the last day of it today for us, but they have a different number than us. So I've been giving our first phone part and their last part. So the real number to call and join the conversation, 713-440-8870. I've been moving those zeros around. All right, let's get on with the show. Houston Running Company was created in 2007 and built on a passion for providing safe, inclusive, and encouraging atmosphere for all kinds of runners. The group now hosts over 30 events of all sorts for causes and organizations. This Saturday, they'll be hosting a 5, 10, and a family 1K run in celebration of Earth Day at City Center. To tell us more, we welcome one of the co-founders, Randi Schooley. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
Well, we have a runner on our panel.
I was just going to say.
And so she's going to be excited about this.
Yes, so this is exciting because there are a ton of running groups in Houston, and it is one of the most beautiful times to be outside in our incredible city. And so why don't you tell me where your running passion came from?
So that is an excellent question. I have been a runner my entire life, since very little. So I'm sure you remember elementary school, field day, getting passionate about getting out and taking on that mile. And my goal was always to beat the boys. So that's what I wanted to do. And then when I founded Houston Running Company and came into it, we really just wanted to offer an opportunity for runners to come out and experience a race atmosphere, regardless of your level of comfortability. And, maybe you've never even hit the streets before. So to give them an opportunity to really just try.
That's really nice. I used to run a lot more than I run now. That just is what happens. So enjoy it while you can. But running can be kind of lonely. It's always more fun to run with somebody for me. For sure. But I did a lot of single, lonely running in my life. It's great what you're doing.
Absolutely. And it is. I've done a lot of lonely running as well, and it's always better with a friend.
Yep.
So what is it that Houston Running Company does? Initially, I think you want to go running. Go outside and run. Yeah. What do we need a company for?
So Houston Running Company is actually one of the largest event production companies in Houston. So we produce a number of running events throughout the year. We have a 9-race holiday series, a 3-race summer dash series. We have a half marathon race series. We've created an opportunity for Houston to run year-round. And so we provide events all over Houston, from Katy to Pearland to Cypress, Houston Central. And we just create an opportunity for you to come out and have a great time.
So just to clarify, you guys are a running club, or do y'all host events?
We host events.
Okay, so y'all aren't necessarily, y'all don't meet on Tuesdays?
We don't.
Okay,
no,
so y'all are hosting events.
Yep, absolutely. And we bring all of those running clubs together. So everyone that's training throughout the week, because you can find a local running club Monday through Sunday, regardless of where you are. But we bring them all in-house, and we create a very competitive, fun atmosphere for them to participate.
One thing I know is a passion of yours is that the experience for the runners is something from start to finish, something they'll remember for, in some cases, a lifetime.
Absolutely.
Your background gives you unique ability to create these events. So talk a little about that.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. And that is something that we are incredibly passionate about. We want, from the moment you register all the way through you crossing that finish line, we want it to be special for you. So we have the best shirts, the best medal. We create a timed event so that you can keep track of your results, and you can watch. If you participate in our series, you can see event over event how you've improved. We've got an opportunity for your family and your kids to come out and participate, generating that same love and that same passion.
Do you keep a doctor on staff?
We do.
I'm sure. I know the marathons usually have a doctor.
We do, yes. Safety is paramount, so we absolutely have on-site medical. And then, of course, our team is standing by. We're there to cheer the very last runner through that finish line and make sure that whether you're first or bringing in the tail.
What's the longest 10K?
Actually, half marathon is the longest distance that we offer in this market. So,
but I will say, as a long distance runner, which I've just started to actually admit, feel like I can say that. I really love the fact that you all have shorter runs for families.
Yes.
Because I think that is something as adults, it's a passion of ours. It's a mental health thing. It's a way for us to, work on ourselves, but also we want to share it with our little ones. And so the fact that y'all have these is great. Can you tell us about the Earth Day one that's coming up?
Yeah, so this Green 6.2 is actually, it was our very first, we call it the OG. It was the very first event that Houston Running Company brought to this market. And it's been in City Center all 17 years. And so when it started, our first event had 200 runners. And the highest we've eclipsed is over 2,500.
Is that different than Race for the Dome?
It is different than Race for the Dome.
About 30 seconds. Tell me about Race for the Dome.
So Race for the Dome was a contract race that we recently produced in partnership with the Astrodome Conservancy. We've been their production team from the beginning, and this happened just a couple weekends ago. And it was a wonderful opportunity to bring Houstons out and showcase the eighth wonder of the world.
Nice.
So we
I
love
love
that
that
group. Yeah.
If people want to hear more about where they can get involved, where can they go?
Absolutely. www.houstonrunning.co is our website. We're on social media. You'll see us everywhere. Please come out and join. We would love to have you.
Randi Schooley is the co-founder of Houston Running Company. Randi, thanks for joining us on Hello Houston.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
And coming up in the next hour, we'll talk about the history of Easter and our last-minute plans. Stay with us. When you support Hello Houston, you make a space for deeper conversations that help you understand your city, your neighbors, your community, perhaps even your running event. Right now, public media stations around the country are facing threats to funding. And that could impact us right here in Houston. We can't take that for granted. That's why we rely on your generosity and all the generosity from you. Right now is the time for you to stand up for your access to local independent media. Protect it right now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887. I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman here with Frank Billingsley.
Hello, and it's
Hi.
Friday, Celeste. Everyone has a right to know what is happening, whether it's local school decisions or community events. So support local voices and thoughtful conversations right now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call us 888-909-0887.
And we understand not everyone who listens to our station can give or make a financial gift, but there are people who can. And I'm asking you, if you can make a gift to the station that you and others rely on, make that donation right now. Maybe you've never given before. Now is that time to make the first time gift. Make your donation at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
And let me be clear, we need you. This kind of journalism doesn't just happen. It happens because people like you step up. And now's the time to help us here. Please go to make your gift at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or by calling 888-909-0887. 0887.
And hey, big impacts start with big vision. If you can give $100 a month or $1,200 a year, you'll become part of our studio society. Or go even further with a gift of $5,000. Maybe you're feeling really generous, $10,000 to join our Affinity Council. We'd love to welcome you. HoustonPublicMedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
And here's something to think about. Not everyone who listens is able to give. So if you can, please give to help ensure that everyone will enjoy our trusted news and programming in the years to come. Right now at HoustonPublicMedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
This is the great thing about public media. It's available to everyone, and not everyone has the ability to make a gift, and that's okay. So I'm asking you, if you can make a gift to the station our community relies on, do that right now. Give for you and give for your neighbors. Give right now at HoustonPublicMedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
And thanks for believing in this work. 80% of our funding comes from people just like you. Not ads, not investors. It adds up. up. So maybe $10 a month works for you, or a one-time gift of $150. Every dollar supports this service, every one of them. So please, HoustonPublicMedia.org/donate or call us 888-909-0887.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Certa Pro Painters, offering residential and commercial painting services, from color consultations to full project management. Estimates and more at CertaPro.com.
83 degrees at the University of Houston. Mostly sunny today and breezy with a high of 88, looking at a low of 72. This is your NPR station, KUHF Houston News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. It's 12 o'clock.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, we discuss Secretary of State Marco Rubio saying today that the U.S. may move on from trying to secure a Russia-Ukraine peace deal if there's no progress in the coming days. I'm Frank Billingsley.
And I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman. Today is Good Friday. We'll learn more about the Easter celebration from pastor at Ecclesia Houston, Sean Palmer.
And I'm Ernie Manous. We want to know your thoughts, so give us a call, 713-440-8870, or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us on YouTube. Just go to HoustonPublicMedia.org and click that big orange banner.
Plus, we will give you some Houston area weekend entertainment options with our weekly last-minute plans.
All this and more in the next hour of Hello Houston, coming up after news from NPR and News 88.7.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Janine Herbst. Vice President Vance says he's optimistic about the U.S.-led negotiations between Russia and Ukraine. He made the comments in Rome as he met with Italian Prime Minister Meloni. Megan Williams has more from Rome.
Just hours after Secretary of State Marco Rubio warned President Trump may soon abandon Russia-Ukraine peace efforts without signs of progress, Vice President J.D. Vance told reporters the administration is still holding out hope.
So these negotiations, I won't prejudge them, but we do feel optimistic that we can hopefully bring this war, this very brutal war, to a close.
The vice president and Meloni also discussed trade, including Trump's recent 25% EU tariff, now paused for 90 days. Vance, a Catholic convert, is scheduled to meet with Vatican officials Saturday, though not with the Pope. For NPR News, I'm Megan Williams in Rome.
President Trump says the U.S. plans to finalize a rare earth minerals agreement with Ukraine next week. But as NPR's Greg Myrie reports, Trump and his advisors are sending mixed messages about what the U.S.'s role will be in the Ukraine war.
The deal on valuable minerals was supposed to be signed when Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky visited the White House in February. But that meeting descended into a shouting match and the agreement was postponed. Trump now says it will be signed next week. Still, Trump says this about Zelensky.
I wouldn't say he's done the greatest job. Okay? I'm not a big fan. I really am. I'm not a big fan.
Separately, Secretary of State Marco Rubio indicated the U.S. was growing frustrated with efforts to broker a peace deal in the Russia-Ukraine war. He said, quote, "If it is not possible to end the war in Ukraine, we need to move on." Greg Myrie, NPR News, Washington.
A vigil will be held today on the Florida State University campus in Tallahassee for victims of yesterday's mass shooting. NPR's Greg Allen reports the 20-year-old suspect arrested by police is the son of a sheriff's deputy.
Police say Phoenix Eichner used his mother's handgun to shoot 8 people, killing 2. Leon County Sheriff said he'd been a member of the department's Youth Advisory Board and had gone through extensive training with the department. The shootings occurred near Florida State University's Student Union building. Students locked themselves in basements and bathrooms while they heard gunshots being fired outside. Eichner didn't surrender when confronted by police and was shot and wounded before being arrested. Classes at FSU are canceled today, as are home athletic events through the weekend. Greg Allen, NPR News.
Wall Street is closed today in observance of Good Friday. Stocks have lost ground during this holiday-shortened trading week. All of the major stock indices are in the red for the week, with both the Dow and NASDAQ falling about 2.6%. You're listening to NPR News from Washington.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Gabrielle Dawkins. A Houston FBI agent shot a woman who threatened him with a machete in southwest Houston. The FBI says the agent was conducting, quote, an authorized law enforcement activity when the woman came up and threatened them. The agent was not hurt in the incident. And the Trump administration has released funding for Harris County Public Health's refugee screening program following a federal court ruling. News 88.7's Patricia Ortiz says the program assists immigrants with legal status in Harris County.
Acting Harris County Attorney Christian Menefee says the administration was forced to stop an audit of the program and to provide clear timelines for dispersing the funds during the court hearing.
They had no excuse at all. And the moment that they had to go before a court of law and provide an excuse, it was very clear that they had none. This was federal overreach at its worst, but the county attorney's office pushed back, and we beat it.
The county's refugee screening program provides health screenings, immunizations, and connections to primary care services to 11,000 refugees and other admitted immigrants with documented legal status. I'm Patricia Ortiz, News 88.7.
And measles is still spreading in Texas. As Houston Public Media's Colleen de Guzman reports, the state health agency is reporting 36 more cases of the disease since its last update.
The total number of cases tied to the West Texas outbreak is now 561, according to the Texas Department of Health and Human Services. Nearly 400 of them are 17 years old or younger. 58 are currently hospitalized, and around 25 cases are expected to be actively infectious. The state's death toll is still 2.
And in sports, the Astros are back on the field tonight. Houston will take on the San Diego Padres. That'll be a 7:10 start. It's currently 79 degrees on the UH campus on this beautiful Friday. I'm Gabrielle Dawkins, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive Insurance with its Name Your Price tool, a way to see coverage options based on a driver's budget. Learn more at progressive.com or 1-800-PROGRESSIVE. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
And back in the noon hour.
Here we are.
Of Hello Houston.
It's Friday afternoon. It went from Friday to Friday afternoon.
We're getting closer to the end of the day. For all of you folks that are enjoying the program but want just a little bit more, you can watch us too. If you're not aware of that over on YouTube, you can simply get there easiest way. Just go to hellohouston.org. There's a little orange banner. Just click Watch Live, and you can see us live. You can also call in with your thoughts, comments, reactions to any of the topics we're talking about on today's show. Just call us 713-440-8870 or email us talk@hellohouston.org. Earlier we were talking about it might be a wet kind of Easter weekend, but you don't think it's going to be devastating?
No, it's going to be cloudy and warm tonight and tomorrow. And then on Sunday, there is a 70% chance of rain. But that's really for the whole area. I think we'll see, I would call it spotty showers. I think we'll see spotty showers.
So what does that do to your 10-week plan? That like every weekend.
That's right. It starts.
Weeks.
If it rains on Easter Sunday, it's going to rain every Sunday for the next 10 Sundays, according to lore.
So does 70% justify that, or no? We have to see what happens. Anyway, thank you for that. Coming up this hour, we're going to be talking with Pastor Sean Palmer about the Easter holiday. But first, we start things off with Celeste and our first topic of this hour.
That's right. Thanks, Ernie. So Secretary of State Marco Rubio said today that the U.S. may move on from trying to secure a Russia-Ukraine peace deal if there is no progress in the coming days. This is after months of failed attempts to bring an end to the war in Ukraine. Rubio spoke in Paris after landmark talks among U.S., Ukraine, and European officials produced outlines for steps toward peace and appeared to make some long-awaited progress. A new meeting is expected next week in London, and Rubio suggested that could be decisive in determining whether the Trump administration continues its involvement. We want to hear from you. Should we end peace talk with Russia and Ukraine? Is the Trump administration just giving up, or is this the right move? Is this the right time? Give us your thoughts. 713-440-8870.
Well, let's be honest. We were promised day one by President Trump. Day one. In fact, he said, if I'm not mistaken, before he was even inaugurated, he would bring this to a resolution. Not to say that no one's tried, but it didn't happen.
Right.
So, okay, it didn't happen. Well, so what, are we just going to move on because it didn't happen?
My problem is I just don't understand this administration's diplomacy plan. I'm not exactly sure how it works.
I don't think they have one.
We are going to settle this. We're going to settle this. You're going to do what we say. Hey, leader, you're here in the Oval Office. I'm going to berate you a little bit. Hey, now I'm going to turn on the other one. What? Nothing happened? You know, if you don't make it happen, I'm leaving.
Yep.
That was our diplomacy plan for Ukraine. I don't understand it.
Right.
It's terribly sad because if
right.
we just abandon this whole situation, I think we all know what's going to happen.
Well, meanwhile, Russia kept up a series of deadly strikes on Ukrainian cities, according to officials there, wounding scores of civilians days after missiles killed at least 34 during Palm Sunday celebrations in the northern city of Sumy.
That really bothered me when I saw that report come in. It's war in general, I in no way am a fan of. When you go after civilians, that's bad enough. When you go after a group of civilians at Palm Sunday services, you know, it's just, it seems like, okay, there's a brutality here that's just to break the spirit of the Ukraine. I get it. You're at war with them and you want to destroy your enemy, but it just seems savage.
But they weren't really enemies. They just wanted their land.
I guess.
Well, they definitely at this point they are enemies.
Well, of course.
After
you kill someone I love, you're my enemy. That's for sure.
My question is the relationship between Putin and Trump. Has that gone cold? You know, what's happening there? Because I thought that that was, I think, Donald Trump, that was his ace in his pocket, was that he had this relationship with Putin.
It's good to be friends with dictators because that way you're able to communicate with them. That was a sell.
That was one of the things he did sell during his campaign.
I think the idea was that Trump had one, as often happens in relationships, one member had one idea of how their relationship was going and the other one had another. I think that Trump may have thought his ace in the hole was that Putin supported the idea of a Trump presidency and therefore they had this relationship where I think maybe Putin felt, well, you know, this is someone that I can work around. I'll say what I need to say when I need to, and then I'll move on to what I'm wanting. And I think he thought he was going to get even maybe more support from the U.S. in this, and that things have just gotten, as with this whole situation, I'm just worried it's becoming the next Middle East.
We have Anthony on the phone from Pearland. Anthony, what's your thought?
My thought is that Rubio's comment is great news for Russia because it doesn't give the United States any actual footing to negotiate. All that Russia needs to do now is just wait out the United States, maybe a week, and they can basically walk in and do whatever they want with Ukraine.
Well, maybe. On the other hand, Anthony, maybe this is just some talk from Rubio to spur a real resolution, saying, hey, look, you guys need to learn to play right because we're leaving this fight, and you don't want us to leave, so you need to get it together and resolve this. So maybe it's a bluff. I guess we'll have to wait to see.
That goes back to my earlier statements. I don't understand this administration's domestic policy, how they play this game. Anthony, how do you think this is all going to resolve?
Well, I mean, Russia wants the United States to leave. The Ukraine doesn't, but Russia wants them to leave. So it behooves them to not negotiate so the United States does withdraw from it. The last thing that Russia wants is United States involvement.
Yep, you're right. I agree with you.
Good point, Anthony, on that. Thank you for calling. We're always interested in what you have to say. It's 713-440-8870. Before we move on to what seems to be a slightly lighter story, I want to take a step back to a comment we got over on from our email, actually, about an earlier topic we were talking about. Guy writes, "Wonderful program. It's extremely important for people to protest peacefully against policies they don't agree with. It's effective. Otherwise, the all-powerful U.S. government, like other tyrannical governments, would not be cracking down, sometimes violently, against even students. They know that protests are right and are afraid of the protest spreading wildly." Thank you for that, Guy. On to our other story. So I'll take it here. It just got a little lighter. So I thought if we're going to talk about that comment, let's get it there. A bill to greatly expand efforts to lure TV and film production to Texas has passed the state Senate. I'm happy they're doing the important work of the people. The measure passed the upper chamber 23-8 on strong bipartisan vote. At least it's nice to hear that term said in our government. Now heads to the Texas House for consideration. Senate Bill 22 would increase funding for in-state film and TV production by creating new fund of investment that would be paid through sales tax revenues. The fund would increase Texas financial incentive to in-state production to $500 million every 2 years, up from the current $200 million now. State Senator Carol Alvarado from Houston was one of the 9 Democrats who voted with Republicans to pass the bill. She noted, this is the important part, that Texas had missed out on the opportunity to host the production of a recent series about legendary Tejano singer Selena on Netflix.
Beady beady bum bum.
Beady beady bum bum. What do you think? Should we be funding initiatives to bring more film and television production to the state of Texas? My question is, but using taxpayer money and adding $300 million to it? Aren't there other ways to do it? What do you think about filming in Texas, and what are your favorite movies or film shows shot here? 713-440-8870.
Well, as a taxpayer, I mean, how is it going to benefit in any way, shape, or form?
There's arguments of tourism increase and how it highlights the state and shows the vastness of it.
It does employ a lot of extras.
It employs people, extras, and brings the film industry here where they spend money. And, there's things but when we're in such a financial wickety thicket, what's that expression? You already have $200 million in incentives to make it $500
They're not working,
million.
apparently, or not like they want them to.
Maybe... And I don't understand the fine details of it. Not that I don't know what they are, but I don't know if these are tax breaks, things like that, which I see usually done to bring industry here. Less taxes you pay, not that we have to put money into it. So.
All right, let's move on. Maryland, Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen met with immigrant Kilmar Abrego Garcia yesterday. Garcia, the Maryland man who was illegally deported to El Salvador last month. He was denied due process. He is being held in prison in El Salvador, where the Trump administration is sending people deported from the United States. The White House insists Abrego Garcia will not return to the U.S. despite a federal judge's order to facilitate his return. So you may have seen this picture of the senator, Van Hollen, actually having a coffee and water with Abrego. And then there was apparently also, for some reason, a margarita on the table.
Wild.
Now, was that photoshopped? I don't know. Was that some of Bukele's people putting the margarita on the table?
The New York Times is reporting that's what happened.
That's what happened.
During their meeting.
And so Bukele trolls him.
And put
with the cherry and the salt on the rim.
Well, and Bukele says Kilmar Abrego Garcia miraculously risen from the death camps and torture, now sipping margaritas with Senator Van Hollen in the tropical paradise of El Salvador. But you know what? I think that picture backfired because it humanized this man. It made him much more one of us, as opposed to behind plate glass with a phone like you see on Law and Order, in a jumpsuit, where you see a prisoner, you see someone that
instead of portraying him as a criminal, it portrayed him as an everyday person.
It portrayed him, I think, very much as a person that is to be listened to, and that his story should be heard.
And Senator Van Hollen is getting a lot of criticism from Republicans, essentially saying that he.
Well, they don't want the attention there. They want to let this story die now. And I think that may have been part of Marco Rubio's comment earlier today to shift the narrative over to Ukraine and what's going on there so that we stop talking about this.
Well, and Andre Romero is the gay hairstylist that was also just taken off the streets of Milwaukee by a cop that has now been fired. But he was also sent to this prison, according to reports. I haven't heard much outcry for him. Yeah. And I hope there will be. I went to HRC Human Rights Campaign because, I've been sitting at HRC dinners for a long time. Where's HRC on this? Mm-hmm. As far as I can see, they do have a petition going to Rubio, and I signed it. And maybe that kind of outcry will help. And where are the hairdressers? And I'm not trying to be flip, but I've seen hairdressers come together for AIDS with hair cares, and If the hairdressers stepped up and said, you know what, we're taking a couple of weeks off from doing everyone's hair until this man comes back.
That would be a real protest.
Well, Jeanette Rubio, have you seen her hair? She's beautiful.
Yeah.
She has amazing hair and amazing highlights. I'm serious.
Yeah.
This is a hairstylist. I think these colleagues of this man should step forward and say, we've got to stand by this guy. He's one of us as far as a colleague. And we deserve to hear where he is and why he's there.
We're curious what you think about this topic, about what's going on with Garcia and also with the case that Frank has mentioned. Give us a call, 713-440-8870. Before we wrap up headlines for today, we do have Maria on the line. She's calling from Inside the Loop. Maria, what's on your mind today?
Hi. So I think that there's maybe some question in a lot of people's minds whether the administration really wants to broker a peace deal in Ukraine, and much credit to Congress. There are serious members of Congress who are trying to backstop the maybe lack of diplomacy with some legislation. And so if people are concerned about it, they should really be calling Congress. There are two bills going in parallel, one through the Senate, which is an incredibly well-supported bipartisan bill. It's S-1241. It's Sanctioning Russia Act of 2025. And then there's a parallel bill in the House, that's H.R. 2548. People should be calling and asking our government to do what they're supposed to be doing. So,
hear.
All of us are making the phone calls. All of us who are watching this, anybody can call any time of day. You can leave a message. You don't have to talk to a real person. But, watch the legislation. The Congress is the closest to us and should be doing the right thing in the absence of maybe it's an oversight of the administration, but there are methods out there. So call Congress, ask them to co-sponsor this bill and get it moving.
Maria, thank you very much for that. It's something we talk about all the time. Elected officials do react when you reach out and tell them how you're feeling. And if enough people do, it sways their decision-making. Thank you for that. Remember, we're always interested in your thoughts. 713-440-8870.
Coming up on Hello Houston, we talk with Pastor Sean Palmer about the Easter holiday. And we're also taking your calls on any of today's topics at 713-440-8870. This is Hello Houston on News 88.7. Everything you hear on Hello Houston is for you, your interest and what you want to hear about. But it's only possible because you support it. Public media funding is at risk, not just from one place, but from all over. Cuts at the national level and economic pressure are making it harder to sustain independent journalism. But Houston Public Media, we're different. And Houston Public Media is very different. We're funded mostly by you, and that's why this moment matters. Now is the time to stand strong for local programming. Support it right now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887. I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman here with Ernie Manous.
This station is powered by Houstonians like you, not just Celeste and I, but you. It's not the ads, not the shareholders. If you're listening right now, it's because there is a community of people who give to this station regularly. So why don't you join them and make your very first gift to Houston Public Media? It's easy to do. Give right now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
How do you quantify the value of a connected community? How much is knowledge worth to you? Think about it and make a contribution at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Your investment helps us remain community-centric. Because of you, we're responsive to what happens in Houston. Now, if you haven't given before, this is the moment. Make it count at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Houston Public Media puts you at the center of every story we cover. We are intentional about that. This isn't a corporate-owned outlet. It's built by this community for this community. If you value in-depth reporting, global context, and thoughtful conversation, this is your moment. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Here's something to think about. Not everyone who listens is able to give. They can't afford it, maybe. So if you can, please give to help ensure that everyone will enjoy trusted news and programming in the years to come. Right now, give at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
And here's the reality. Public media funding is never guaranteed, and that's why we rely on you. Community support is the most reliable thing we have. Help protect your newsroom at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
As you know, if you have already given, we send a huge thank you to you. You help support this service so others can enjoy it in our community. Now, if you are able and haven't yet, consider doing that right now. Give at houstonpublicmedia.org or call 888-909-0887.
You know, the most challenging part of the job, I think, is, we're never spared a big story here, it seems. And that in itself makes the job, I think, equally challenging and satisfying. We have a hurricane season here that lasts almost a half a year. That in itself keeps you on your toes constantly. There are chemical plant explosions, unfortunately, here. That impacts people's lives. So I would just say the pure unpredictability of the job makes it challenging and satisfying.
What you hear on this station, every report, every interview, every update, is only here because someone like you gave.
80% of Houston Public Media's funding comes from Houstonians like you. Our newsroom runs on support from you, our community.
You have the right to know what's going on, and you have the power to make sure others do too.
Join the community right now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Support comes from the Houston Zoo, presenting its annual Feast with the Beasts. Cuisine from a number of Houston's diverse eateries, animal experiences, live music, and more. May 2nd. More at houstonzoo.org.
Support comes from the Moores School of Music, presenting Puccini's opera Turandot, a fantasy of love in ancient China, featuring soprano Christine Gerke and tenor Limmy Pulliam. April 24th in the Moores Opera House. Tickets at uh.edu/arts-tickets.
Support comes from Pearland, Texas, offering new construction with custom options and amenities, mature neighborhoods filled with trees, and urban living. Details at pearlandedc.com/inspiration. Pearland, inspiration lives here. Support comes from Elmore, communicating with clarity and inspiration, collaborating with executive leadership to create expert internal and external communications strategy. Elmore, listen, clarify, communicate. More at elmorepr.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To share your thoughts on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
And we are back again. A lot still going on, and we're interested in what you have to say about all of it. 713-440-8870.
I'll tell you what, we got a nice comment. Great show. Celestia Sherman is very good.
Thank you. Really, stop.
That's from Ricardo says, today Trump said that he doesn't like President Zelensky. Could it be that the peace talks could end because he had his feelings hurt last time they met?
That's a good point. Could be. Though it seems like years ago was that White House meeting, doesn't it? Everything moves so fast now in Washington.
It's a lot.
You know what else people are always talking about? It's the economy. Now, all week long, I've had this story to share, and we haven't done it, so I had to get it in today before it's no longer of use. If eggs are too expensive, we have got the solution. How about marshmallows? It seems that jet-puffed marshmallows have created the Dip and Decorate Dozen Kit to decorate their extra-large marshmallows, which are about the same size as jumbo eggs. So if you don't want to go and buy eggs, if you don't want them hidden around your house like Frank was telling us earlier, and then you forget about them months later.
I am a purist. Eggs only. Thank you very much.
Ooh, okay. Well, you have your own hen, probably.
She's got her money for that.
By the way, coyotes are coming after hens in people's backyards, so be careful.
Yeah. Okay.
Happened in Hyde Park today.
There's a lot going on here. Speaking of Easter, Celeste, take it away.
So nearly 32% of the global population identify as Christians. And today is Good Friday, and this Sunday marks one of the holiest days on the Christian calendar, Easter. To better help us understand Good Friday, Easter, and some of the oldest traditions that are still observed today, we are joined by speaker, Enneagram theorist, author, and pastor Sean Palmer. Sean, welcome to Hello Houston.
Oh, thanks for having me.
We're glad you're here. We're glad you're here.
So let's just start right off the bat. What is Good Friday?
Yeah, so Good Friday is the first day in what Christians would call historically the Triduum, which is these 3 days together, which are Good Friday, Holy Saturday, and Easter Sunday, or actually Resurrection Sunday, because Easter is actually an entire season. It's not just one day. So it begins with Resurrection Sunday, the Easter season leading up to Pentecost, which is 50 days. But Good Friday begins with the marking of the death of Jesus on the cross. So actually, for most churches, many like mine, like we gathered last night for our Maundy Thursday services, which commemorate and talk about when Jesus washes the disciples' feet. And says that I have come to serve, not to be of service. And if you want to be a follower of Jesus, then primarily what you're here to do is to serve in the same way. And then we enter into Good Friday, where Jesus is crucified, as Jesus spends 6 hours on the cross. You get the Stations of the Cross mostly, and many churches celebrate that on Good Friday, which then leads to Holy Saturday, which is the time when Christians throughout history have sat in grief. And silence. It's also called Silent Saturday in many traditions, and then Resurrection Sunday. So that's the whole arc of the weekend. So for many of us who work in pastoral ministry, local churches, this week is kind of like our Super Bowl.
Yes.
Like there's just many, many things happening over the course of several days.
And that's the thing. I feel like a lot of people, non-Christians and Christians alike, think Easter and they think Good Friday and they think Catholic because you hear about Lent. And so you were actually touching a little bit about that. And I always think there's Friday, and then I was asking, what do people do on Saturday? But I didn't realize we're grieving.
Yes.
Well, presumably the disciples sat Shiva for Jesus.
Yeah, so, there is a long Jewish tradition of sitting Shiva, and you sit in grief. And our culture really does not like darkness and grief.
Right.
And so we want to get over it as soon as humanly possible. So Silent Saturday just over time through history has been glossed over. But all of us who have ever lost anyone, members having that feeling of thinking life feels weird and strange and surreal, and you think that person who you just recently lost might just walk through the door, or you're going to wake up from a bad dream. And that's what Silent Saturday is.
And that Saturday, they did not know that he was going to be resurrected on Sunday.
Right.
I mean, they really thought Jesus was dead and gone.
Yeah, and this is really a fascinating point, because whenever you read history of any kind, ancient documents of any kind, we have the privilege of being on this side of history, but they were in it.
Yep.
And to understand a story accurately, you have to understand it the way that people who experienced it understood it.
Did Judas kill himself Friday or Saturday, or do you know?
I don't remember. I think that was probably on Saturday. I'd have to. I mean, it's just a piece of information that I forgot.
Well, you can't know it all.
Yeah.
Let me ask, as a child, this always bothered me. Okay. On the third day, he would rise. I've done the math over and over again. Friday to Sunday does not give me 3 days.
Right. Right.
the timing in when we celebrate what we celebrate has been shifted and altered to fit different, to fall upon pagan holidays, to fall within. How do we justify the third day if it's Friday to Sunday?
That's a really great question that a lot of people have. And so, I have two daughters. They're 21 and 18. So when I travel to speak and those sorts of things, the way we count time has changed. Sometimes it's like, Dad's going to be gone for 4 days. Then Dad's going to be gone for 2 sleeps, those kinds of things. So what you have to understand is the ancient Hebrews counted days as inclusive days. So if it happened Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that's 3 days because they count the whole days. Now, I might get on a plane on a Friday morning and come back on Sunday and tell my children, it's just 2 sleeps. But it's the way that we understand the days. It's more cultural, historical than it's mathematical. So because just ancient Hebrews counted inclusive days. So when something happened on Friday, that's day 1, Saturday's day 2, Sunday's day 3.
I come out of the Orthodox faith, so I know that our calendar doesn't always line up with what we call American Easter, but it has to do with when they switched over from the Gregorian calendars and things like that. But when you take it back to the understanding of Friday being the Last Supper, falls in line with Hebrew, with the end of Passover, it being a Passover Seder. And so I can see how we get to this time of year. But do we truly believe that the crucifixion happened in the time frame in which we acknowledge it? I know Christmas is often thought he was actually born in the summer, but we put it in December because of, once again, pagan holidays and stuff. How do we come to the date that we see as the crucifixion? Is it tied to the Hebrew calendar? And is that also why we shift the date of Easter?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's tied to Passover and when Passover happens. So because what Christians believe, reading the ancient documents of the First Testament or the Old Testament, is that Jesus is the promised coming King, the Messiah. And there have been these substitutes, from this initial Passover story. I know lots of people watch the Ten Commandments around Easter and Passover.
That's one of my all-time favorite films. We'll be having a screening tomorrow night at my house. Not that I'm plugging it.
That's how Ernie does Grieving Saturday.
Yeah. Yes, I watch the Ten Commandments, even though Ten Commandments, no Jesus in Ten Commandments. It's Moses' story. Don't want to steal it from poor Moses.
You don't want to steal it from Moses, but what Jesus represents for the Christian faith is that Jesus is the ultimate Passover lamb, the sacrifice for Christians that supersedes all other sacrifices. So you do not have to continue to make atoning sacrifices for sin, for instance, because Jesus is the sacrifice once and for all, the perfect Passover lamb. So Easter and Passover being connected are essential. So that's where we get the date from. And so very early on in the story of the church, 50, 60, 70 years after Jesus, that has been commemorated as the time to do it.
Yeah, well, that makes, if you look at Hanukkah and Christmas, about the same time. So a lot of these feast festivals followed similar patterns throughout history. And of course, without the sacrifice that Jesus made, we wouldn't get to heaven. That ultimately is what gets us forgiven.
Well, that's one there are a lot of atonement theories about how do people, where
right,
the ultimate
if Jesus had not been
that,
crucified and then risen, then that would have been a very big missing link to the whole Christian story.
Right. So the story of Scripture is that sin is actually not the problem, that death is the problem. And so it's Jesus overcoming death. When Jesus conquers death, then that ability is then transferred to all of those who then trust in Jesus, that death is not the end of your story. So in the grand read of Scripture, when you see that the problem is death, so the wages of sin, for instance, the Scriptures would teach, is death. So death is the problem that has to be overcome. Jesus is actually already forgiving people of sin before he goes to the cross. But there is one final sacrifice for all people. But it's when Jesus conquers death and is resurrected, which is why we call it Resurrection Sunday and we celebrate Easter, that then all of those who follow Jesus can also be resurrected like Jesus. Jesus is the elder brother that opens the door for all those who would come after him, and makes it available for everyone.
So are there any rhythms of Easter, or I don't want to say takeaways, but you think that non-Christians that are like, I don't believe in Jesus, I don't believe in God, but they can look at Easter and take some things away from it?
Yeah, I think so, because the Easter story is essentially the story that all of us live out at some point. One of my favorite writers is a Catholic priest, actually, named Ronald Rolheiser, and he talks about the Paschal mystery, and it's got these 5 moves to it. It begins on Good Friday, and Good Friday is death. Then the Easter Sunday morning, which is new life, and then you have this 40-day period in the life of Jesus, which is, he calls the 40 days. Then there is Ascension, where Jesus ascends, and then Pentecost. And those actually correspond to what people actually experience in life. Everyone, regardless of who you are, regardless of what you believe, at any given time are in a season of death, something dying, maybe the dream, maybe a relationship, maybe a job. That's a Good Friday moment. You're in Good Friday. Then there is an Easter season where there is an emergence of new hope, that after you've experienced some sort of death, that you do begin to see the silver lining in the cloud, or the new horizons, or the sunrise. And you have 40 days when you are stepping into something new, where you're experiencing a new adjustment to the world. An ascension is like letting go of the old, because you actually can never move on in life without letting go of the old. What things in your life have to die that you have to release? And then there's Pentecost, which is like a receiving of a new spirit. So, if you've ever gone through a divorce, a breakup, a job loss, the death of a loved one or a child, we're all going through all of that, even when it's a good thing. So children who leave home to go to college, that's a kind of grief for parents.
Oh, yeah.
So you're in a death, but then you have to say, my youngest leaves for college in August, so she's graduating here in a few weeks. My wife and I are asking questions like, we have to properly grieve what our family has been for 21 years while we've all 4 been there. But we also have to think about, okay, we're only 50. So like, what does the new look like? And how do we make adjustments, both adjustments in our schedule, adjustments in our finances when you have 2 kids in college and the oldest is about to go to law school and all of that? Then how do we let go of what was a beautiful time when our girls were home and then receive something new to move on? Like, that's not inherently religious. Right?
No, that's a beautiful analogy. What you've just said is very, very striking, because you're right. We all go through these periods in our life, right. And we all come out the other side if we have at least some hope. Without hope, you have nothing, even if you're not a Christian or a religious person.
Right.
All right, I'm going to bring it way up to the present now and find out the Easter Bunny. How did we end up with a rabbit?
Well, because rabbits lay eggs.
I thought you were going to talk about midnight mass. Ernie.
Oh, I'm not going to go to midnight mass. I want to know about the Easter Bunny. I want to know that the egg, is it supposed to be the symbol of fertility, or is it supposed to be the symbol of the tomb and breaking free?
Eggs are actually a symbol of new life.
Okay,
so that's kind of how, so fertility, all of that. I guess bunnies, because bunnies create a lot of new life.
I think you're just free-forming right now.
Well
I think
said,
that's a
sir.
scholarly approach to that.
Oh, man. Okay, I've got to ask, favorite Easter candy?
I am always a chocolate person, so it is just like, what are the Snickers eggs?
Right? I'm not a Peeps guy at all.
No.
Yeah, I was worried you were going to say Peeps, and then this was going to have to be over.
No,
but chocolate saved us.
My youngest daughter is a Peeps person, but she's also vegan, so
it makes sense.
Yeah, we quit caring about what she likes to eat.
Sean Palmer.
You can only do so much.
Yeah, right. Sean Palmer is the teaching pastor at Ecclesia Houston. Sean, thanks for joining us, and I'll see you on Sunday. Coming up on Hello Houston, Ernie, Frank, and I talk about our last-minute plans, and we'll share some more with you, and we can't wait to hear all about yours. Give us a call, 713-440-8870. Stay with us. Knowing about your community matters because it helps you navigate life confidently. When you understand what's happening, you're better equipped to engage, to lead, and to care. And that's what Hello Houston brings you. But right now, public media stations across the country are facing threats, whether from policy changes or economic hardships. That's why your support is so important right now. When the future is uncertain, that's when you need access to information the most. Stand up for your local public media stations right now. Just visit houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887. I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman here with Frank Billingsley.
I'm so glad to be here with you. And you know, that what we just heard from Sean Palmer was so, I thought, just so on the mark. And that's the kind of things that we talk about here. And with our funding uncertain, you are the most reliable source that we have. When you give, you protect independent journalism that's here for you, not shareholders, for you. This is your moment to take a stand. HoustonPublicMedia.org/donate or call us 888-909-0887.
And right now is the time to act. Not later, not tomorrow. Make your gift in this moment while you're listening and support the kind of journalism that helps you make informed decisions in your life. It only takes 2 minutes to give at HoustonPublicMedia.org/donate or by calling 888-909-0887.
And monthly donations are the most powerful kind of giving. They're reliable, they're steady, and they let us plan big. What's Houston Public Media worth to you each month? $5, $15, more? You decide. Then give us a call or go to HoustonPublicMedia.org/donate or 888-909-0887.
This is community-powered news. About 80% of our funding comes directly from our community. People just like you who value facts and they take action to support them. That means your role is essential. Help keep this newsroom running strong. And that's the key, strong. Go to HoustonPublicMedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
And here's something to think about. Not everyone who listens is able to give. So if you can, please give to help ensure that everyone will enjoy our trusted news and programming in the years to come. Right now at HoustonPublicMedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
That is true. Not everyone can give. But Houston Public Media is available to everyone. That's why it's so important that you make your gift right now. Please give now at HoustonPublicMedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
And thanks for believing in this work. 80% of our funding comes from people just like you, not ads, not investors. It adds up. Maybe $10 a month works for you or a one-time gift of $150. Every dollar supports this service. Give while your impact goes to HoustonPublicMedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
A free press is essential to a strong democracy. If you give $1,200 or $100 a month, you make a difference. Learn more at HoustonPublicMedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887. And thanks so much.
Access to information is your right, not a privilege, and it isn't something you should take for granted. Reliable, vetted reporting matters, especially now.
Houston Public Media keeps you connected to what's happening in Greater Houston, the country, and around the world. But we rely on your support to make it possible.
This is your chance to stand up for the kind of journalism that protects your right to be informed.
Give now at HoustonPublicMedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Support comes from Classical Theater Company, presenting Anton Chekhov's classic early modern drama, Three Sisters. Performances through April 26th at the Deluxe Theater. Ticket info at classicaltheater.org. Support comes from Gen Pro, a Houston-based home generator service, providing power to homes during unexpected outages, helping with connectivity and productivity. More information is available at genpro.com.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from UNT, offering an online MBA with specializations in organizational behavior, HR management, and more. Classes start every 8 weeks. Details at online.unt.edu/MBA.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Certa Pro Painters, offering residential and commercial painting services, from color consultations to full project management. Estimates and more at certapro.com. Support comes from Interfaith Ministries Refugee Services, resettling individuals and families fleeing their homeland for security and safety. Ways for community members, companies, and houses of worship to help refugees become self-sufficient are available at imgh.org. Support comes from LaPorte CPAs and Business Advisors, an independent accounting and business advisory firm serving clients for more than 75 years. With 190 employees across offices in Houston, New Orleans, and other locations. More information at laporte.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To share your thoughts on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
And we are back again, wrapping up our week now.
I mean, this is when it really becomes Good Friday.
Which I didn't get a chance to share with our last guest, but coming from the Orthodox faith, we call it Holy Friday. Because as children, we were told there was nothing good about our Lord dying on the cross. So it was Holy Friday. So
well, but like he pointed out, what's good is that we do not die when we die. We get to go to heaven.
We don't know that yet, not until Sunday.
Everybody wants to go to heaven. Nobody wants to die to get there.
You know, all good dogs go to heaven. Wasn't that a movie? I got total blank stares from my co-hosts on that one. Anyway, we're not getting blank stares from you. We always encourage your input and thoughts and feelings, 713-440-8870, or you can email us, talk@hellohouston.org. Frank, you've been gathering them up here.
You know, Cosme Garcia says there are a lot of TV and film workers. My mother's one of them, and she would love for the film industry to come back to Texas because that would bring her mom back here.
Yeah,
who's now living in Georgia.
She's living in Georgia.
And Georgia has an amazing,
Huge.
you always
It's the
see that
biggest
little
one.
peach on the end of a lot of programs because they were shot and filmed in Georgia. And don't get us wrong, we love the idea of a film and television industry here. I think the question is, you know, the taxpayer incentives and what all that means and what it means to us when we're having trouble balancing our budget. But bring any industry here, and especially we love TV and film. Frank, got some more?
Alex Garza, fun fact, No Country for Old Men was filmed in Marfa and Shafter, Texas.
Yeah, that is true too.
So there you go. I did not know
go.
that. From email, though good, I'm all for the film industry expanding. And in the Houston region, the Netflix Mo TV show.
Mo.
Okay, that has been described as a love letter to Houston.
And very funny too at the same time. I like that show.
And this is about the Senate bill, an amendment that would give an additional $2.5 incentive to faith-based productions. And the law would ask the office to consider whether the project promotes family values and portrays Texas and Texans in a positive fashion. I did not know that was included.
I did not know that was included either.
Yeah.
Freddie says all faiths and whose family values are getting incentive money from the amendment. That is, once again, an example of Texas giving tax money to religion and God knows what family values means. So he has
Good
a point.
points. We have a very thoughtful audience out there who often enlightens us even further. Give us a call with your thoughts, feelings, 713-440-8870. But as we keep pushing, we're at the weekend, Celeste.
That's right.
What are you doing?
Yeah, what are you guys up to this weekend?
Well, we've already hinted at what I'm doing. We are going to get together at my house and watch as many hours as we can of the 10 Commandments. Depending on the cut you get, it can go from 3.5 to a little over 4 hours. I'm a purist. I want the biggest, most deleted scenes all put back in. I love that movie.
Ernie, can you tell us your favorite part of that movie?
Okay, here we go. My favorite part of the movie.
Here we go. I'm just going to sit back and vape.
Okay. Moses goes up Mount Sinai to see God. Mm-hmm. They know that's where he's going. He's called to go. He's gone 40 days. He slowly ascends the mountain. His wife sees him. Joshua sees him. They run to him. This man has just gone to speak to God. What is the first thing his wife says to him when she sees him?
What?
Moses, your hair. That cracks me up every time. Not what was God like?
How
what
was it
did
seeing God?
say?
How was the burning bush?
And then
but your
she
hair.
follows it with, and your shoes. Kills me every single time. Love
That's
the movie.
Hollywood.
Probably for all the wrong
Hollywood.
reasons.
We
We'll be
also
watching.
ask you to share your weekend plans. We had somebody send in. Randy from the Heights sent in. He said, is with the national organization Food Not Bombs, and wanted to mention that they're having a rally this weekend to collect food at City Hall on Saturday from noon to 3. And they're also asking people to bring donations for the Houston Food Bank. So if you don't have any
Nice.
plans or you want to give back, this would be a great opportunity right here.
I have 2 brunches to go to.
Ooh.
I know. I have one brunch at 11, and then
On the same
an
day,
Easter
Frank.
brunch, and then at 2 I have Greek brunch with my Greek friends. You're not invited, but I am. And then
They're
hopefully,
your Greek friends.
Hopefully,
I
I'm going to go
got
to Slip By Bunnies, which is the big festival downtown for LGBTQIA+PARTY. So that's always a fun time. Hopefully, the weather. It's an outdoor event, so hopefully the weather will cooperate for bunnies.
Celeste, what are you doing?
On Saturday night, I'm going to the Museum of Fine Arts Spring Nights. They do this event.
That sounds
it's
fun.
It's going to be fabulous. My parents are in town, so we're going to go do that. I'm very excited. They have a cocktail and they have like a band.
It's from 5 to 8, and with drinks specials.
Yes.
I'm looking that up right
Yes,
now.
and
It's in the Kinder building,
if you become a member, I believe that's a part of the package.
Are you a member, or are you just a media star?
I'm just a media star. But for our sports fans, you can catch the Houston Rockets versus the Golden State Warriors game at the Toyota Center at 8:30 p.m. on Sunday, and this will be the opening game of their first round of the NBA playoff series matchup. That's incredible. And all weekend long, you can catch the Theater Under the Stars production of the musical Waitress at
Great
the
show.
Hobby
I've
Center.
heard all good things about it.
For the performing
Celeste
arts.
and I were there last night.
Did you love
and-
it?
Yeah,
I
mean,
loved it.
We had two guests on our show who are in the show.
Yeah.
Go to
They play-
YouTube and watch it because it's
they
so
play
good.
Donna and Oogie. Donna, was that right?
Yeah,
Donna,
Dawn.
Dawn and Oogie. They steal the show. Hands down. I'm so happy they were our guests on the show. On YouTube, you can see the interview we did with them. But if you see, I haven't laughed so hard in the theater as his entrance in a long time.
Phenomenal. And that was Kennedy Kanagawa.
Yes.
And so he had a great conversation with Ernie. Y'all should definitely go to our YouTube and check that out.
Yeah, but it's fun, and it's a very popular show, Waitress. So if you get in,
And
go see
this
it.
weekend is also Earth Day. So
Yep.
on Saturday, Discovery Green will host their annual Earth Day celebration. This is free and it's a family-friendly festival. I hope it doesn't get rained out. That will take place
Saturday should be okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
Sunday's a little dicier.
That will happen from noon to 5, and it'll have exhibits and interactive experiences, live music, crafts.
Houston Arboretum is also celebrating Earth Day from 10 to 2, and they're going to have journaling, hikes, art, community partners, booths, and all that at the Houston Arboretum. It's over at
I love arboretums.
4501 Woodway
So
Drive.
Real Earth Day
Free.
is Tuesday, by the way, April 22nd.
Real
It's
Earth
been
Day, not
celebrated this weekend.
Which, April 22nd, my
Yeah.
mother-in-law's birthday.
Perfect.
I love it. But that brings us to the end of this week's
No.
We're done already?
Hello, Houston.
I got so many more things to tell you about.
We want to thank you. Save it for next week.
Can we come back Monday?
We can come back Monday. We want to thank you. Thank you so much for listening and watching and sending in your comments and questions. We're back on Monday with more conversations. This is News 88.7, and everybody have a very good Friday. The stories you just heard was made right here in Houston. It was not imported. It was not syndicated. Right now, funding sources for Houston Public Media are under threat. And it's important to remember that here at Houston Public Media, we're built on something stronger, community. And that means you. Hello Houston lifts up local voices, brings different perspectives, stories, and conversations so you can stay connected to your community. But we rely on your support. Support your platform for Houston's voice right now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887. I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman here with Ernie Manous.
Yeah. Hello, Celeste.
Hi, Ernie.
Every time you tune in, you hear something new, something surprising, something real. We don't tell you what to think. We bring you a range of perspectives and let you decide. And in today's media landscape, that's rare. And that's powerful. and that's worth protecting. So please give right now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Every show is different, just like Houston. Today we're covering the Texas legislature, immigration, and running. Maybe tomorrow, who knows? That variety, that relevance, it's all made possible by you. Be part of keeping Hello Houston going strong. Please give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Still thinking about it? Time is running out. So let's do this together. Support well-researched, honest reporting here in Greater Houston. Show you care about keeping truth on the air. It's easy. Just go to houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
This is community-powered news. About 80% of our funding comes directly from our community. People just like you who value facts and take action to support them. That means your role is essential. Help keep this newsroom running strong. Go to houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
If you've already given, thank you. If you haven't, do it now. houstonpublicmedia.org or 888-909-0887.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altide, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.